People sometimes watch me and they think he's a bit serious when I'm doing it, but that's my job. If they want a comedian, they can get somebody else. Name's Roy Keane. Keep myself busy at the moment with some TV work and a little bit of media work to keep me out of trouble. Well, it's huge. I think the coverage now for players, obviously social media, the amount of live games, every kind of pundit's an expert now. Puts a lot of pressure on obviously on the managers and the players. But it's all part of the game. I think it's something everyone's got to get used to it. I was always comfortable with when I started playing. Whether it be also media commitments in your contract. It's part of the package of being a professional footballer or obviously a coach. So there's no getting away from it. It'll probably get worse. But you just got to roll with it and I suppose get used to it. It's not going anywhere. Well, obviously you're professional. You got to respect the people you're working with. Simple as that. And I first started doing 1 or 2 games. I think it was for ITV. And again, because you're used to working with teams, whether you're a manager, a staff, or a player, I kind of enjoyed that side of it. I was working with a team, whether it be other pundits, as you said, whoever's hosting the programme, people in the background. For me at the start it was ITV. And to be honest, at the start I just thought I'll dip into it. I'll just probably do 1 or 2 games, almost to get on my own comfort zone, to see what it's like. And I've kind of just tipped away it over the last few years. Would I say I enjoy it? I enjoy watching good games, but also people sometimes watch me and they think he's a bit serious when I'm doing it, but that's my job. If they want a comedian, they can get somebody else. I'm there to give my professional opinion on a game, and to be fair, with what I'm seeing and what I'm watching, I try and be fair on the players and obviously the management. But do I see myself as, I still don't see myself as a kind of a pundit. But if people see me as that, then so be it. I'll probably do a few more games while I'm out of work over the next few months, and we'll see how it goes. I was very lucky. 2 brilliant managers. What I suppose that what I always enjoyed working for both those managers were they always kept it simple. Alex Ferguson or Brian Clough I never felt confused with any of their instructions or their tactics. They kept it very, very simple. Obviously, both brilliant managers. I do count my blessings I've worked with them. But if I was to take anything away from having worked with them, was how simple they kept things and never complicated it. I think I would have enjoyed playing under Martin O'Neill. I worked under him as a coach. I know I would have enjoyed working on him as a player because I think he's a brilliant manager and a good man. And again, kept things nice and simple. Maybe I think it would have been interesting to have worked under Marino. I think that would have been, that would have been interesting. I think I would have enjoyed that. I think it's difficult for lots of managers out there. A lot more experienced managers than me have suffered from it in terms of, I suppose player power. Players having contact with chief executives and chairmen, etc., and owners. Whereas years ago, you always felt the manager was probably one of the most important people at the club. To me now, I think the manager's at the bottom of the pile. When things aren't going right or players aren't happy, they make a few noises and the manager's gone. So you'd have to try and change that, but it's easier said than done. You've got to manage people, obviously, but we've got to try and get rid of all that player power nonsense, particularly from bad players. Well, I think it's great to education full stop. I think from my own experience, I wished I'd done a bit more of it. When I was at school, but all I was interested in was obviously playing football. But I think it's vital for these kids now to take advantage of it, the facilities, I suppose the expertise, and it's great to see them doing it. I probably would have said just go a bit easier on myself. I think it was very hard, particularly when after a kind of disappointing performance. I know that's all part of the industry. When you lose a game, you kind of, I was quite good at beating myself up. I think in hindsight, when I look back now, particularly towards the end at Sunderland, I probably would have gone maybe a bit easier on myself. I suppose the difference from a coaching point of view, you didn't have the intensity of maybe 3 games a week, or I suppose the travelling involved. What I suppose I enjoyed in the dynamics of the job is when you were with Ireland for a week or 2, it was intense, but it was brilliant. Enjoyed that pressure. But you also know you had a break coming up, whereas at club level it's relentless. Obviously 10 months of the year, every day, the travelling, obviously buying and sell players at international level. You generally have a group of players obviously you can only select from. There's no buying or selling. But I, from my own experience, I certainly really enjoyed coaching at international level, obviously working with very good players. But you also then of course miss that day-to-day stuff. So, but I think you probably had the best of both worlds at international level. But there's always that draw as well to go back to club level, to put a marker down with a club. And the plan is, having been an assistant manager with Martin for the last few years, and I dipped into it a little bit assistant, obviously at club level. I had it with Paul at Villa and in there. But my next role, if I get the right opportunities, to go back into management. But of course we'll have to wait and see. We just hope there's the right challenge out there and I get the right offer. Whether you're dealing with a board or the owner, shareholders, etc., the sponsors, budgets, I do think you have to be aware of that at the club. Obviously, again, the priority for a manager again is trying to win a game at the weekend. But I think the modern manager now has to have an idea, I suppose, what's going on in the background of the club without getting distracted too much by it. Well, I suppose again, slightly different when you're a player. You're obviously in your own little bubble, your own little world. My way of switching off, especially after disappointments, particularly when I was younger, was probably just going out and having a few drinks, switching off, going to watch a movie. I think it's definitely a lot tougher on the manager. There's a lot more on them. So obviously, you've got to get answers to the board. You've got to deal probably with more media, obviously the supporters, etc. Social media pressure nowadays. I think the more experience you get as a manager, I suppose the better you can deal with it. But it'll always be there. I think the day you don't suffer after defeat, you probably should get out of the game. But I think there's got to be the balance to looking at the bigger picture when you have suffered a defeat, step back, look the reasons why. Sometimes there's a bit of luck involved. And maybe, again, I mentioned earlier, to maybe go easy on yourself. I wouldn't say it's prioritised, but I think there's been a lot of good work done in the background, as we know, whether it be through the LMA, etc., and obviously PFA with the player side of it. But yeah, I think there is that help there, whether people plug into it or not. Maybe not enough of it, but I think it certainly has improved over the last few years, and hopefully will get better, because there is huge pressure on people now. And again, mental health's been mentioned, and that's something that we've probably shied away from over the last few years. And that's something that we've all got to embrace and get rid of that stigma around it. And I think, as I said, we'll hopefully see the benefits of that over the next few years. Oh, loads. Oh yeah, loads, of course. But of course you can't. And instead of looking back, when you look back at your career and you're retired, or instead of kind of thinking about the things I could have done differently, I always count my blessings. And to have worked for the manager I've worked under, but more importantly, I had some of the greatest teammates, particularly when I was at United, because obviously I spent the majority of my career there. Obviously some brilliant lads as well at Forest. But the players I worked with at Man United, you know, so lucky. Brilliant players and great characters. And yeah, I count my blessings I got that opportunity. Regrets about my first book. I don't think it's a good idea to write a book when you're still playing. Obviously done the book when I was 32. It was around the World Cup. Enjoyed my second book a lot better because of the person who wrote the book for me, Roddy Doyle. Obviously I was retired then. It was kind of more relaxing. You would just meet him. I would meet Roddy maybe every week. I'd go to Dublin, or he'd come off to Manchester, a bit of a chit chat, he'd put things together. I found that more relaxing because I had more time to check things over when I was looking at it, whereas my first book I was still playing, and I think my whole focus was still on being a player. Roddy was a really good guy. I've enjoyed his company, classy guy, and I think he wrote a decent book. You know, I hope that doesn't sound really cocky, but I thought, yeah. So it was a case of just meeting him, doing a number of interviews. He put things together, and again, we kept it very simple. I'm still in touch with Roddy to this day. Really a good man and a good rider, and yeah. I have to say, before I'd done this, I had no real plans to do a second book. But obviously the book company got in touch with me. They had Roddy, and I said, listen, no interest. And I met Roddy in Dublin for a couple of days. He says, Roy, would you not meet me for a chat anyway? Not that Roddy was desperate to do the book. We thought if we got together, we'd see if there was any chemistry. And I met Roddy in Dublin, and as soon as I met him, we thought, oh, gee, yeah, let's go for it. This guy is a class guy. And as I said, I'd retired by then. I thought it could be a better book because I was a bit more relaxed, a bit more time on my hands. So yeah, no regrets about the second book. but I certainly shouldn't have done the first one while I was still playing. It wasn't a good idea. The toughest opponent, obviously I had always good battles with Patrick Vieira, and obviously when Gerrard was coming through and Lampard, and I made the point before, sometimes 11v11s at United I'd be up against Nicky Butt or Scholesy. They were tough opponents. But the best player I played against would have been Zidane. The reasons why: he was a brilliant player. He was big, he was strong, he was nasty, he could score a goal. Yeah, he was a tough player to play against, definitely, and obviously world class. Do you know what? If you're passionate about what you want to do, then go for it. Simple as that. Whatever part of the industry they want to go into, whether get the media side of it, director of football, chair, whatever it might be, then go for it. If you've got a passion for it, then fantastic. And there will be setbacks along the way, obviously. You got to deal with that. But yeah, just go for it. Why not?